essentially. We're going to be presenting testing today. Testing in the form of, like, obviously HR and how it's used in recruiting and other roles of HR that we'll be going into later. My first slide is going to be showing you the contents that we have. So we're going to start off with, I'm going to define testing. Going to go into more of the roles of testing as an HR, an employer, and an employee. The different types of tests used. The legal Mike's going to cover the legal aspects involved in using testing. And then we're also going to move on to the pros and cons of different test types that we're going to cover before that. Choosing the appropriate test, because that could be very important to what you want to do. And then at the end, we're going to get into the best practices for testing. And then it will be over. So what is testing? A test is a standardized series of problems or questions that assesses a person's knowledge, skills, attributes, or other characteristics. So that's just an overall definition of what a test is. But by law, for HR, the Uniform Guidelines of Employee, anything that can judge employment. So could it be your resume or interview can kind of be classified as testing as well. So the popularity of testing, as you can see, this is just kind of a general, the 400 best-in-class organizations. It could be 91. They're a little messed up. But
what's a resume spammer?
A resume spammer is somebody that just sends out their resume to as many people as possible. That's more so common now with the internet. Everyone can just basically send it out as many times as they want to as many people as they want. Whereas when there's a test in the application, it requires a little more work, a little more effort to go through and actually read what's happening. So, why?
Well, that last slide, maybe you could back it up just to that last slide.
It's on that computer.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's on that computer over there. I was trying to be cool and calm and help you guys do that just a little bit. I wanted to see the name of that book.
Are the best.
And avoid the rest.
Yes. So why an employer want to use tests? It reduces the turnover rate. It can remove underqualified employees. It assists future employee development. It helps you better understand an employee. And it allows you to delegate work more appropriately because you will better understand the employee from the start of when you begin. So why would a candidate want to be tested? As a possible candidate to be tested, you want to know if the job is right for you. If you don't fit into the test requirements, not only will the employer not want you, but you probably don't want to be there either. It gives a better understanding of what is expected, and it gives you a chance to stand out from the competition if you're not good at initial interviews. So this is just kind of showing the most effective hiring selection practices. As you can see, it's multi-measure tests, so using different types of tests to measure different things has been shown to be kind of one of the better hiring selection processes. Forms of test distribution, especially now, we got computers, a lot of technology. There's paper, you just take a like standardized test on a piece of paper. On the job where you're showing what you're actually doing for them at the moment. Proud of your portfolio, you prepare a portfolio for your employer and you show them what you can do. So the formats for test questions, it could be either, this is limited, this is kind of just common, but it could be multiple choice, like an A, B, and C thing. A true or false, always, sometimes, never, or an essay where they just give you an open-ended and have you explain what you want to say. Commonly tested attributes, once again, this is just very, what's common. Your qualifications for the job duty, obviously. Your leadership skills, your social skills, see if you can work in a team. And then your work priorities, and mainly honesty. A lot of tests can kind of wean out if you're honest or not, especially when it's an always, sometimes, never thing. If you're always answering always to the better attributes, they can kind of catch on if you're honest or not. When can you expect to be tested? You can expect to be tested when filling out an application, which I said earlier on with the resume spammers. We'll do it right then and there. During the interview process, before employment, but after the offer letter, that would be like when you're drug testing. And during employment, that could be done for possible future promotions. So right now, I work at Target right now, and when we do it, the application requires an aptitude, test where you have to pick. No, the next one. Skip it. So American Eagle, where I also used to work. Oh, I'm so messed up with these slides. Confusing. All right. So they use the OAD test. It's an organizational analysis and design test. They use it for numerous reasons. It basically just breaks you up into 4 different groups: red, yellow, green, and blue, and it kind of decides on you pick what you think is important to a job, and it helps you understand where they could place you and where you could see possible development. So red cashier, green was seller, yellow tasker, and blue was kind of that honesty thing where you kind of just picked only the best ones with the other one here. And now Ash is going to come up and she's going to present types of tests.
You sit down. not you. I want to know more about Target
Okay.
and American Eagle. So just take a little bit of time and tell us what went on there.
Alright, sorry.
These are my favorite parts, and I didn't quite capture it.
Sorry. So Target, when you first apply, you're hit with a kind of test that kind of judges you between two. It gives you two options and tells you which one's best.
And that's the kiosk at the store, right? Don't they just have a kiosk there that you go
They
in
do have
and
the
sit
kiosk
down
in the
and
store, but
take
you
it?
could also do it at home.
Okay.
So when I did it through the school, so I interviewed first, and then they made me fill it out later on because they wanted to make sure that I was filling out all their job requirements. So they did, it was kind of like, it was two good options. So it was like, I'm a leader, and then it was something equally pretty good, but you had to pick which one you felt best described you.
Yeah, that's
So, yeah.
that's a very famous test, and we could go into that later. But you won't remember the name of it, like I can't think of the name of it right now.
So it was very difficult to pick whichever one was best. You kind of had to give
Leader or popular?
Yeah.
You know, rich or happy?
pretty much.
Actually, that would be an easy one. Okay, go ahead. No, American Eagle.
Oh.
Give me that. Do you know what gave you red, blue, yellow, or?
Yeah, so when I did mine, I was yellow, and that actually helped me out when I wanted to be promoted. I was promoted to be their merchandising leader, so I did mainly a lot of their tasking, which was kind of doing their window displays, their front end displays, all stuff like that, and filling out the floor. So it basically gave you, it was a pretty short.
That's what a tasker is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was getting into that, but it went fast. It was a pretty short thing. It basically just gave you certain things about work ethic and told you which ones to pick, and you checked off which ones you thought were more important based on what you wanted to do, and it gave you an analysis of what you wanted. So when they did it for their hiring too, 75% of their staff was supposed to be cashiers as red. It might have been 50, and then like 30 green and 20 yellow, so that they could split it up appropriately, so that they could feel like they had all the skills needed to fill out what they had to do.
Are you still at American Eagle?
No, I left for Target. Like
Okay,
as
that
last
was the
year,
order.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I really am sorry. I was just getting into it.
So, hi everybody, my name is Ashley, and I'm going to be talking about the pre-employment testing. So, like, you ever filled out an application and you had to take like a little exam, or they want to see your skills or something before your test, and before you actually get to go on the interview. So, what is pre-employment testing? It's a collection of exercises used to assess applicants on dimensions of performance under standardized conditions. It allows the candidates to demonstrate their skills and their knowledge. So I kind of put a diagram up here of like what when your pre-employment testing would be in. So it'd be like your application, and then an online assessment, which would be your pre-employment testing, then your interview, and then some jobs might require another test once you get after the interview. So why to test before employment? Why do jobs want these tests before employment? To draw undesirable traits and behaviors and find the qualities in these employees that they are seeking for. So there are different kinds of tests that are like qualified. So it will be, there's three: criterion related validity, content validity, and construct validity. For criterion related validity, validity, sorry, does the
No,
test...
don't apologize. It's just in front of 100 people. Now you can just skip this slide and go to the next.
Okay. So for the next one, it validates those job behaviors that are necessary for successful job performances. So it'll help you decide exactly which questions you want to put on the pre-employment testing. For constructability test, this test method determines whether the test measures certain traits or qualities that are important for performing the job. And I found this little diagram where it'll tell you like when the person completes it, if it's reliable or not reliable. So how are the test assessments administrated? They're mainly administrated by a trained professional. They're, as he said earlier, by pencil pen online. So now going into the different testing categories for when you get hired. There's psychological testing, personality, drug testing, integrity testing, and physical testing. So for psychological testing is generally for the intelligence. Reasons to conduct this is mainly because they want to know how the employee where the employee will be mentally on the job. For personality testing, it's really to evaluate a person's, to describe and understand the simulation characteristics, thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and behaviors toward the job they will be applying for. So for my job at Wegmans, I applied to be the night manager, and when I got the offer, I actually had to take what they call is a DISC test, and the DISC test breaks down into showing like what category you are. There's also drug testing for many jobs, especially for full-time employers, and there's blood, hair samples, urine, and so on. And I just found this quote where it's like, "This business is a drug-free workplace. We conduct drug testing." So they could do it before, random, post-accident, reasonable cause, and so on. Also at my job at Wegmans, when I got the job offer to be the night manager, I am now going to be a full-time employee. So I actually had to go for a drug test, and they took it from my hair sample, which I really didn't think they would have done it through my hair. That was the first time I've ever gotten that done. There's also where they do polygraphs and lie detection tests, and written honesty tests. This is to see how truthful you'll be when working on the job and where you will stand at the position. There's also jobs where you can be carrying heavy things or moving things around on heavy carts. So they also may ask you to go for a physical exam to make sure your doctor approves of this position, as well as on the job, making sure you can lift the pounds that are necessary. So how can you prepare yourself for pre-employment testing? There's really not a way you can study for this, but you could just get a good night's sleep. Next up is Mike.
Mike.
Make yourself alert.
Let's go back up to, let's just start at the beginning of hers. Okay, now go back to the one that I told her to skip. Okay. I was being a little bit flippant. Was there anything on here that you particularly wanted to share?
I was just going to show that on...
Oh, that's nice. Just run the slide. Oh, I guess you got the auto timer on it. Yeah.
So for here on the chart, for it to be like approved, does it contain the proper criteria for measuring the traits or constructs of interest? So here is just like a sample I found online where they showed like the test score and also where the employee standed. So they wanted to make sure that the test was helping their job in some kind of sense.
Yeah, let me say something about that. She's hit something that's a whole course and even a graduate degree here. And I decided over the last few years to avoid it because it's extremely complicated. Maybe some of you big brains out there don't have a problem with it. But to really put it into place in a work environment, you're going to get somebody with a statistics degree to work through this. You might have an HR degree and you might say, I've seen this before. This is very difficult stuff. And it's actually pretty much a full-time thing to get her done right. So keep going down, there was something else. Oh, okay, so back up. This is a big slide here. These are the different testing categories. For psychological testing, make sure you're not crazy. Personality testing usually gives you preferences, Myers-Briggs. Drug testing, integrity testing, which is honesty. And as a matter of fact, you can test honesty from, a multiple choice test. Somebody earlier said that one of the ways is if you always answer super honest, oh, I would never ever stoop so low as to take a pencil from my employer even for a night.